All right, folks, welcome to another edition of Outspoken. I'm Dan Sileo, and the sports calendar is absolutely insane. World Cup final today, Argentina and Spain. NFL training camps right around the corner. We got teams reporting this weekend and throughout next week. Plus, Major League Baseball comes out of the All-Star break. NBA news all over the place. Guys, let's get to it. Fire the cannon. Well, speaking of the All-Star game, it was an absolute train wreck. 27 strikeouts. You got guys in the All-Star game hitting 225, and you're taking the walk of shame 27 times. What happened to this game? It was the centerpiece of all All-Star games for generations. Major League Baseball had one of the great things that was an appointment-setting event for decades, and now it's a joke. I couldn't even find the Hall of Fame game when we're talking about looking at how you look at all these great players that used to play in this game. I used to think this was a Hall of Fame type game. Now it is not. I was looking for the Home Run Derby. It was on Netflix, and it got the lowest ratings in the history of the Home Run Derby. Major League Baseball had one of the greatest centerpieces of all time, where all these future Hall of Famers would play in this ball game. Reggie off the light tower, Parker in right field, downing out at the plate. All those great legendary moments we saw. Having Fred Lynn hit the home run to give the American League the All-Star game, and you're sitting there remembering these great moments. Rose going around third base and destroying Ray Fosse. These moments are all gone. Major League Baseball's All-Star game is in shambles now. Look, it's still better than anything we see with the NBA or with the NFL or with the NHL. I get it, but this was one of those games that mattered. Look, I get it. I sound like, oh man, get off my lawn. I loved it back in the day when the only time that you saw National League and American League players were in the All-Star game and or in the World Series. Now you don't get that any longer. That game is not watchable. It's just not. And the players really don't care. Plus, the people that you put in the game. You hit 225 and you're an all-star in today's Major League Baseball? How is that possible? This used to be reserved for the best. I hate these participation medal games that we have in sports today. I don't believe every single city should be represented. I don't believe that you should have a player from every team in. I think you should have the best of the best. Make it an honor. Make it one of the great hallowed honors that it used to be. Going into an all-star game, it meant something. Make no mistake about it. All right, we got to get to the biggest train wreck in Major League Baseball this year, and that is easily the New York Mets. The Mets have spent over $320 million to be bad. I mean, it's incredible. The Dodgers, on the other hand, spend the second most, and there they are once again trying to do something that no National League team has done in over 100 years. You know what that is? Three-peat. And now you've got everyone up for grabs there for the New York Mets as we get closer to the August 3rd trading deadline. They are completely revamping the entire roster. How do you spend $320 million and get it wrong? All across the board. You're talking also now about Bo Bichette being put out there for the trading deadline. Hey, what happened to Pete Alonso? Think he could be using his ass right now? Holy cow, man. What an absolute train wreck that you have going on with the New York Mets. You know, they're going to make a complete sweeping change when it comes to the offseason here. Does that mean David Stern's the general manager? Does he survive this as well? Does Alex Cora really want that job? Is that a job that Alex Cora covets? Or is it something potentially that he goes down to Philadelphia and he manages that Philadelphia Phillies team if Don Mattingly so chooses not to come back? That's the job. That's the general manager. That's the franchise. It's not the Mets. I have not seen the Mets in this shape since the worst team money could buy. This looks like an even bigger train wreck. How can you get it wrong so much with all that money you spent? How in God's name have you gotten every single move wrong? Then again, it's the Mets. Hey, don't worry, Yankee fans. They'll come aboard. You know why? Because every October, Met fans turn their hats inside out and they'll become Yankee fans. All right, let's go to the NBA. So I heard something that you will never hear in the National Football League. And you know what that is? Let's wait and see what Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or Drew Brees or any of our great players ever do when it comes to deciding whether or not they're going to retire or play with another team. So the scheduling has been held up because of LeBron James. We have finished up the schedule, and where LeBron James plays affects the schedule. It will influence how we set the schedule for the opening week and for the holidays like Christmas. Man, the NFL does not put their league behind one face. The National Football League sells the league. And this is the problem, again, that the NBA falls into. Putting signature players and making signature guys the face of your league is not how you sell the league. The NFL goes up in ratings. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and Drew Brees retire, and NFL ratings go up. Why? Because they sell the sport. They don't sell the faces. Let's not forget, all these NFL guys, these National Football League guys are behind helmets. How do they continually go up when they lose stars? This is what the NFL is all about. Make no mistake about it. The National Football League knows how to promote their sport. The NBA, you're waiting for LeBron James to make a decision on what team he goes to before you release your schedule is insane. It's absolutely insane on how you're going around one player. Plus, you're talking about a 41-year-old player. And I get it. Listen, this is probably going to be one of those celebration tours out the door like we saw with Kobe Bryant years ago. And that you're going to have him going to places like Cleveland, going to places like Miami, going to places like New York, and trying to figure out, again, what TV games to put on for the holidays. I get it. He's one of the greatest players of all time. Make no mistake about it. He's one of the players that has really changed the game. And I agree 1,000% that having him tell us where he's going will dictate a schedule. But for the entire league, LeBron James is on the way out. Who are your next people that are going to promote your sport? The NBA needs to do a better job at promoting their new younger players. Push it out with Wemby, SGA, which you have in New York with Jalen Brunson now. Hell, I want to see this New York Knicks team this coming season. I don't care about where LeBron plays. Oh, I kind of do a little, but I care more what the Knicks do. Can the Knicks repeat? Can Jalen Brunson carry that team and carry it to another NBA championship? That's one of the major storylines, is going to be whether or not this Knicks team was a one-and-done season and whether or not they could go on and do something else and become a small dynasty there in New York. Imagine if the New York Knicks went back-to-back, and now what you have here is a great centerpiece team. You have an opportunity to really promote a great team, and that team is the New York Knicks. All right. Don't forget my great friends at Morgan & Morgan, the #1 injury law firm in all of America for a reason. Folks, I tell you this company was made years ago by Ultima Morgan and John Morgan to serve families like you. I tell you about the family in Pennsylvania that was initially offered $650,000. They got nearly $30 million in settlement. Or the family in Florida that was initially offered $350K. They got nearly $12 million in settlement. Go to forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. That's forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529, and do me a favor. You tell them Big Sales sent you. Caitlin Clark was on a heater last night, and we're going to talk to JY about that. Holy cow, what a performance. We'll do that next here on SportsGrid. All right, old man disease hitting Big Cells here. The championship game is tomorrow between Argentina and Spain, and today it's England and France. So how about that game too? You're talking about maybe even better game today in the third place game. But man, I'll tell you, a first place performance last night. JY joins us now. Caitlin Clark, 45 last night, 10 assists and 4 as well. What a performance last night.
It's amazing, Big Sills. She doesn't play well, it causes controversy in ratings. She plays a game last night, it causes controversy in ratings. So it just continues to talk about what the cash cow that Caitlin Clark is. 45 points, 10 assists, first player in WNBA history to have a 40-10 game. She also became the fastest player in the WNBA, I do believe, to reach 200 career three-pointers in 74 games. That's just an average of just under 3 per game. But think about this. When you think about this record, right? Jordan's done it. LeBron's done it. Kobe, Harden, Luka, Steph, Lillard, Jokic, Trae Young, Russell Westbrook, Tiny Archibald, Jerry West. These are some of the names that have gotten this mark. So when you take a look at what she did, it was absolutely spectacular. And I know when it came on, people were like, no, JY, she wasn't voted as one of the top 4 guards. She was 11th in the list. I don't care if it's top 10, 4th best. I don't care. Caitlin Clark moves the needle. And when she plays well, it is great for the sport. When she doesn't play well, it's great for the sport. Why? Because people are constantly talking about it. We just got to make sure, Big Sills, we're talking about it in a basketball sense and keep it at that.
Do you believe that she has the ability to maybe be considered like the Steph Curry of the WNBA with the way that she's shooting from the perimeter? Would you put her in that category?
Yeah, because of it's the logo dagger threes and the threes that she takes and she makes. I'm going to say this, and this is the biggest compliment I can give Caitlin Clark. Before he got into all his trouble, Caitlin Clark is to the WNBA what Tiger Woods is to golf.
Wow.
She transcends. She draws people to the set. Now, the problem is, Big Sills, sometimes people are drawn to her because they want to see her fail. But regardless of the fact, she draws people in. It's just the job of the league to make sure that they do the right things by her. And that speaks more to what I've talked about in the past, which is how they deal with the referees.
Do you agree with what Adam Silver has said? It's unfair to turn Caitlin Clark into a political football. And what we see on social media right now, it's almost like it's a black and white conversation now. You know, if you defend her, you're disrespecting. Even Jabbar came out and said, you're disrespecting the players that came before. I don't think anybody's disrespecting the players that came before and laid the cement for the WNBA, but you can add to it. Like Jordan added to it, what Magic and Larry did. How do you go about that and what you're watching right now, especially on social media? Is she a political football right now in your eyes?
She's a political football. She's a race football. She's a football in regards to sexual preference. She's what he wants to be. And I think here's the thing, folks. I want people to understand this. Jordan got backlash when he was young, right? They froze him out in the All-Star game when he was like, I think, a rookie or second year, right? When she came in, players, Taurasi, Bird, kind of talked about how other players have paved the way. I don't think Caitlin Clark has ever said anything publicly to disrespect the players that are before her. She greatly actually respects all those players before her. The problem is this, folks. It's 2026. It's social media. And anybody with 2 thumbs, no matter how fat and ugly they are, has an opinion. And that's what it's become. And unfortunately for this kid, she has become the center of everything that is wrong with our country, which is if you disagree, there is a fight. And I think it's, like I said, it's race, it's sexual preference, it's political point, it's all those things. The crazy thing about it is Caitlin Clark wants none of it. And I don't know what is the best way to deal with it. She tries to do it. If she talks too much, they're mad. She talks too little, they're mad. It's on the job of the organization and the WNBA to step in. But it's also on all of us, media people, the fans, to kind of let this kid play. Enjoy. We sat there and enjoyed watching Tiger Woods and golfers. I can't name 5 golfers right now. I mean, I could, name Goddard because he used to come to my basketball camp when he was a kid growing up in Little Silver. I can't name 5 golfers. You know why? Because ever since Tiger Woods has been ripped and gone off the deep end, I don't watch golf. Caitlin Clark is great for sports. We just got to make sure that we keep it about the sport and her play and not anything else. Leave that mess out of it.
Do you think not having any black head coaches in the WNBA, big deal, no deal?
Big deal. It's a big deal because the sport's predominantly black. And the NBA's done a good job of doing it. But Big Sills, this is not the first time we've had this conversation about blacks. You're going to have a legend in Warren Moon who had to fight to become a quarterback. And that's why people like Warren Moon I look up to for what they've done. They need to do a better job of identifying. They had a great black head coach as a woman. Her name was Teresa Weatherspoon. Did a great job with the Chicago Sky. That organization's a damn joke and a disgrace. They traded Marina Mabry. They ran her out of town. And ever since then, the Chicago Sky has been the worst team in the WNBA. If you want to start with one person that deserves a job, do me a favor. Call up Teaspoon and give that woman a job because she's also royalty when it comes to the WNBA.
Do you believe that we're going to see more of a presence with Adam Silver? We're starting to see him talk more about Caitlin Clark and the WNBA. Will we see more of a presence with him because of the lack of leadership with their commissioner?
Simply put, as long as the NBA is putting money into this, you ain't gonna mess with his money. Well, you can say a lot about Adam Silver. He's a businessman. With his money, he gonna step in. That means Kathy Engelbert's got to get it under control.
Absolutely. We are going to switch it over and bounce the basketball to the NBA. And we will talk about LeBron James next here on SportsGrid. I wonder what JY is going to say about, the commissioner holding up the NBA schedule here for LeBron James. He's 41 years old. I get the idea that, you want to see this exit tour, I should say, like a Kobe Bryant exit tour here. But what about it, JY? I mean, he came out and basically said that they're going to wait and see where he ends up signing because it really is dictating what the schedule is going to be when it's going to be released. What's your takeaway on that?
I understand that this is probably going to be LeBron James last year. And obviously, for what LeBron has done for the sport, is you can't be measured. But you're holding everybody hostage. And I'm not blaming LeBron. LeBron has every right to do what he needs to do in regards to waiting it out to see what he wants to do. But the league's got to move on. And here's why I'm a little upset about this with Adam Silver. Okay, and I love what Adam Silver's done for this league. You just had the NBA Finals that had the biggest ratings since the Jordan run of '98. You have superstars, whether it's Wembanyama and Jokic, Giannis switching teams. The New York Knicks win their first championship in 53 years. The Philadelphia 76ers could be primed to win their first championship since 1983. You have so many storylines that are so beautiful. You don't need to hold the whole schedule for LeBron. That's the problem. If you're going to say, hey, Christmas Day, got to get LeBron, check. Open night, got to get LeBron, check. MLK Day, LeBron, check. But you're holding up the entire schedule. You could do a little bit better, Adam Silver, of getting the schedule out because I don't think LeBron's holding this hostage. But Adam Silver is making it look so, and it doesn't look good for LeBron.
Pat Riley made a pitch to LeBron James, and we're going to go down some of the teams. Why does the Heat make sense? Or maybe, JY, the Heat don't make sense. Miami, is that a place for him to land?
Of course, because out of any coach he's played for, the best relationship he's had with is Eric Spoelstra. And if you think about how LeBron, Kevin Walsh came on my show to coaches with JY and kind of talked about this. It's the only time he's left where it's been a little bit of like really sour grapes and he hasn't been able to reconcile, right? He reconciled with Cleveland by going back. He left LA on pretty good terms. The Heat's the one that's a little bit shaky. So, and also the play with Bam and the play with Giannis, absolutely, the Heat have to be considered because of that. And obviously, Pat Riley, hey, I'd go play for Riles right now. I could give him about 2 minutes, about 19 fouls and 4 turnovers, but I'll give Riles everything I can. So of course you could go play for Pat Riley, absolutely.
Why do the Cavs make sense and maybe not make sense?
They are home is why it makes sense. The reason why it doesn't make sense is why go home and do it a third time? I also think the Cavs are a flawed roster. I've said this time and time again. They needed to trade Garland or Mitchell. They traded Garland. Good. I just don't believe in the Evan Mobley, Jared Allen tandem at center. One of them's got to get moved. And I think they're stuck with Harden. They had to give Harden the money because they traded for Harden. Now they're stuck. They're a flawed roster. It doesn't make sense for me, for LeBron, and for his legacy to go back to Cleveland because if he goes back to Cleveland and they don't win, they're going to look at him.
76ers, you've been a real fan of this one here on LeBron James potentially going and playing with Joel Embiid and with Maxey. Why does that make sense? And why do you like that more so? And I don't want to speak for you, JY, but that seems to be the team that you'd like to see him land in.
Let me first by say this. I hate the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm a Knicks guy. Everybody knows it. But to be able to go to Philadelphia and play with Maxey, Edgecombe, Embiid, and obviously Jaylen Brown. You could bring obviously Dean Wade, they just signed off the bench. It takes the pressure off of LeBron to be the guy. LeBron doesn't want to be the number one scorer. He wants to be a facilitator, be that number 3 scoring option. Philadelphia does that. It also does the most for his legacy. See, I thought going into last year, even going into this year, if the Knicks did not win the championship, it was New York and Philadelphia. Why? You get them out of the Western Conference, He goes to the East and he wins with an iconic franchise. Philadelphia fans are just as crazy as Knicks fans. They may be crazier, not as crazy as Eagle fans with a prison underneath the stadium at the vet, but still pretty crazy. If he goes to Philly and he wins a championship, 5 organizations, 5 championships, Big Sills, that shuts down the greatest of all time debate right then and there.
No doubt, man. I mean, you could really make that conversation. You're talking about a guy going to multiple places in an era, right, where mobile athletes, he really created that. He was really the first guy. JY, awesome stuff. Appreciate you, my friend. We're going to talk with a legend, Warren Moon, next here on SportsGrid. So we got a story working right now in Los Angeles, and that's with the Los Angeles Rams and potentially Aaron Donald coming back and coming out of retirement to play with Myles Garrett. I got to tell you one thing that the Rams do. The Rams are one of the greatest organizations in all the National Football League now because of how they use their draft picks, how they use free agency, and how they build their team with Les Snead, Kevin Demoff, and obviously with Sean McVay. Do you know in the last decade, they have only used 3 first round draft choices when it comes to building a football team? 3 first round picks. It makes it insane. And could you imagine Aaron Donald back in a uniform with the Los Angeles Rams and Myles Garrett? That would be absolutely insane. And speaking of just great players, my friend, in Hall of Famer, he is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame and in the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. He's in the California Hall of Fame. I could go on and on, but I want to get to the segment. He is my friend, Warren Moon. How about that? Let's start there first here, Warren. I mean, could you imagine what the NFC West is going to look like if they bring back Aaron Donald along with Myles Garrett? How good that West is going to look?
Yeah, you don't want to get behind in those games because they're going to unleash those 2 guys on the quarterback and make life hell for them. So yeah, I don't know if Aaron's going to come back or not, but he's definitely talking about it. And who knows? Maybe he's going to try and make a comeback, and then you'll see what he's like after being 2 years away from the game.
I want to go back to Seattle here. Months removed from winning the Super Bowl, Warren, take that Sam Darnold story. Here's a guy that was on so many different football teams, and here he is, a Super Bowl champion. And how about this stat here, Warren? Since 2022, he has the highest win percentage of any starting quarterback in the National Football League. How did he turn it around?
He just got in the right environment. First of all, the quarterback draft for quarterbacks is not a it's not a complete science, and a lot of quarterbacks go to bad football teams that are good quarterbacks coming out of college. But when you get in that bad situation, it can really hurt your confidence and really affect the way you actually play the game. So he moved around to a lot of different situations and finally found a couple that were really good for him. I think going to Minnesota was good for him. I think going to San Francisco before he went to Minnesota was good for him, just to get around some good structure and really get back into the game and not have to be the guy on the field at that time. He was just a backup there and really found himself again. And then when he got his chance to go to Minnesota, he made the most of it. And of course, Seattle, again, it just kept improving. His confidence has so much to do with being a quarterback, and then also your environment to surround you has a lot to be with if you're going to be a good quarterback or not. And Sam finally found situations that helped him get his confidence back, and he also found situations where he had a good infrastructure around him that helped him become successful again.
How about this, Warren? Do you think going through all of that and that journey that he went through, because you've told me this before, quarterbacks learn from the lows, not so much from the highs. And so when you get around, when you see good coaching and you feel good coaching, and the most important thing, where you feel wanted. I mean, all of those experiences, do you think that played out this past year for him in Seattle?
Oh, there's no question about it. I think it was the same way in Minnesota. He felt wanted there because they sought him out and they brought him in there, and all the other situations as well. He went to a very dysfunctional situation when he went to the Jets out of college, and then when he went to Carolina, they were a team that was still trying to find themselves. But when he went to San Francisco, he went to a stable organization there that had been successful for many, many, many years. Great head coach there. And then he goes on to Minnesota, where Kevin O'Connell is like a quarterback whisperer. He kind of takes quarterbacks and makes them better players. And he really prospered from that situation. So yeah, being in situations where you're wanted and it's a good, healthy environment for you to learn in, that has a whole lot to do with a quarterback being successful.
How about the change at coordinator with Clint Cooper now not being there, and they're going with Brian Fleury here? I tell people this all the time. Just because you have the same playbook doesn't mean that it's going to be executed the same, because it's like somebody reading a newspaper versus another people. Somebody's going to deliver the content completely different in how they do it. Is that the same when it comes to being a coordinator? You can read the same plays, but situational play calling, is that going to be something you're going to keep an eye on this year when it comes to having changed that offensive coordinator?
Well, that's something that happens between Brian and Sam. They're going to get together and really get to know each other very well this summer. I'm sure they probably have. When it comes down to play calling, those two are going to spend a lot of time together to figure out, what Sam likes in certain situations, what Brian likes to call in certain situations, and he had to go through that same type of structure with Kubiak. So it's a learning process. There's no question about it. But a lot of the same concepts that he learned in Seattle last year, Brian's bringing those in along with some other things that's going to spruce that offense a little bit from San Francisco. And Sam was in San Francisco, so he knows a little bit about what they used to do there. So I don't think the learning curve is going to be that difficult for Sam because of all the familiarity between the two.
I want to go into the NFL now and talk about quarterbacking here with you. And, one of the biggest and most commonly talked about quarterbacks is Jalen Hurts. You really just don't know. He's not that great from the pocket. You see some of the deficiencies he has on not being able to throw across the middle of the field. And yet I roll back to the most important thing. He's 50-18 in the last 4 years. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. Who is he, Warren? Who is Jalen Hurts?
He's a winning quarterback. Basically, that's what he is. He's not a guy that you're going to rely on to win football games with his arm each and every week and overpower people with his arm and accuracy. But he's a guy that knows how to make winning plays. That started out at Alabama. They had great talent around him at Alabama, and he just made winning plays at Alabama, and they won a lot of football games. Goes on to Oklahoma, same thing. A lot of really good football players in that organization, and he made a lot of winning plays there for the year that he was there, and he's done the same thing since he's been in Philadelphia. So you kind of have to know what you get when you get Jalen Hurts, but I would rather have the winning part of who he is than anything else. I don't think just because you're a flashy passer doesn't mean you're going to be a great quarterback in the National Football League. So he's taken his strengths and added them to the strengths of the Philadelphia Eagles organization. I think their general manager and coach have done a great job of putting the type of talent around him that he needs to be successful, and they've made it work over the last 5 or 6 years since he's been there.
So Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, if you had to pick a quarterback right now to start your football team between those two men, who would you take?
Wow. I mean, that's a really tough question because, Patrick has had the most of wow, that's a good one. That's a good one. The only weakness I see is Patrick's coming off of an ACL, and you don't know how he's going to come off that injury. I don't know. That's a tough one because of the success that he's had and everything. How do you go against him? But, they're both 30 years old. They both kind of come in the league at the same time. It's really a tough one. I don't know. I don't know how to pick that one, Danny.
You like both of those guys, sir. You like Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. That really is, too. You talk about a guy in Josh Allen who's a skill set which is crazy, and Mahomes and his great legendary resume. Now, we're going to talk something that John Gruden said about the evolution of the quarterback position. He says dilution of it. We'll talk more with the legendary Warren Moon next here on SportsGrid.
I know you didn't. Talk!
I'm innocent. Got the wrong guy. It wasn't me. I didn't do anything. Okay, it was me. I did it.
Bringing an owl to an interrogation? That's a power move.
Every time. Yeah.
Hiring America's largest injury law firm for your injury? That's also a power move. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
How much do you think tanking is hurting the NBA right now, too, and what we're seeing, like we saw with that Jazz and Orlando game a week ago? How much do you think that's hurting the game?
I can't wait until professional sports in the United States adopts a European model, especially like a Premier League model, and they start doing relegation. The day you start doing relegation, everything changes. Everything will change.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo, only on SportsGrid.
Really cool that we get to have our conversations also off the air here. I'm talking with Hall of Famer Warren Moon, and he's going back to Canton this year to celebrate his 20th year of being inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. My uncle's also has an anniversary. 55 years ago, him, Jim Brown, and Lombardi went into the Hall of Fame, Andy Robustelli. And now you're bringing your kids back. How cool is that to see, and have your kids there and see what the Hall of Fame really is all about?
Well, they've been before. They were there when I was inducted 20 years ago, but they'll be going back for the first time since. And there's been a lot of changes made to the Hall of Fame since then. We've renovated the museum and all of that, so they'll enjoy that part of it. And it continues to keep, innovating as far as the things that they're doing there. The stadium is beautiful now. It's not an old high school looking stadium now. It looks like a nice college stadium. So they'll get a chance to see the Hall of Fame game, and it'll be a great weekend because I host the Ray Nitschke luncheon every year. So we always honor all the decade classes that are coming back every year. So I'll get a chance to honor myself this year, I guess, so to speak. But yeah, it's always a fun weekend. Anybody who loves football, that's football heaven, and you want to be there that weekend because you're going to see so many different guys. They have a fan fest going on this year for the first time that is really going to get the fans more involved in what the players are doing and putting their hands on the players a little bit more as far as interacting with them. So it's going to be a fun weekend.
Absolutely. I love the pillars they have there in the community with all of our names on it who have ever played in pro football's history. I love the fact that you have your name in there and all of our names are there. But hey, I'm not sure if you're on that panel with Dan Fouts and those guys and with Tony Dungy. Do you like the process, Warren, on selecting Hall of Famers, or do you think it needs to be changed?
No, I like the way the process is right now. You just have to make sure all your selectors are doing what they're supposed to be doing within the process. And when that becomes a problem, sometimes you have to call those people out or make some changes. But I think the process is fine. Our Hall of Fame is really difficult to get into, and it should be. But I also think, we could probably allow a few more guys to get in because of the number of guys we have in our sport. Compared to the other sports, basketball only has 5 guys on the court at a time. We have 22 guys that are out there. So you have a lot more guys that you're going to pick from. Again, baseball only has 22 guys out there, or 11 guys, at a time, 9 guys at a time. So football should have more guys going in than they do, but we make it even more difficult to get those guys in there because we feel like our sport is the quality sport in this country.
White Shoes Johnson. I'll just put that in your ear here. All right. I want to put a name also out there. John Gruden made a comment this week, and he says that the evolution of the quarterback position, it's going in the wrong direction. He says it's diluting right now. He's saying that the quarterback processing and being able to process in the NFL, you see a lot of quarterbacks today that don't have what you had, Warren, or with like a Bernie Kosar going to the line of scrimmage and dissecting defenses yourselves and figuring out where to go with the ball. Is he right?
I'm not sure about that, Dan. If you look at quarterback numbers right now, their passing percentages are as high as they've ever been. Compared to the times when I played, interceptions seem to be down with a lot of the guys. The type of throws that they're making nowadays, you don't have to be able to drop back and read the defenses like you did back in the day. They're throwing a lot of bubble screens and tunnel screens and a lot of quick hitting throws that you don't really need to read a defense in order to do. So I don't think that's all true. And a lot of these kids are running the same things in pro football that they ran in college. So their learning curve isn't that high, and they come in a lot more better prepared to play than, say, we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been, and you look at the number of guys who are playing well. You look If the guys who have come into the game at an early stage and are having success very early, so I don't know. I might have to disagree with that.
How about this? Do you agree that if you played in today's NFL, that you would have a completely different philosophy on how you attack defenses? Because I think, Warren, if I go back and think about how you played and how playing against you and all those other guys, it would seem to me of more of a deep passing league back then. And maybe that's why the percentages were down a little bit. Whereas today, you see checkdowns, you see screens, you see middle screens, you see all that stuff. Is it just a different approach because the game today is played more in space?
Yeah, you're completely correct. And we were more of a downfield intermediate throwing game and deeper throwing game, where today they're throwing more high percentage passes, getting the ball out of their hands quickly, because you've got all these defenses now that have these defensive ends who are running, in college. They're coming out of college running 4.4s and 4.5s coming off the edge, and you don't have the ability to sit back there and wait 3 and 4 seconds to throw the football like they did back in the day. So you've got to get the ball out of your hands quickly to make things happen. And that's where the game has kind of changed, and you've kind of adapted your offense to that.
I've always made this comparison to you, and you tell me if you think this comparison is fair. Back in the day when Lamar Jackson came out of college, came out of Louisville, you had a general manager in Los Angeles at the time, Tom Telesco, say you should try another position. And he's gone on to win 2 MVP awards. Is that a fair comparison to you? Because I'm sure you were asked to play a different position when you came out of the University of Washington, but yet you held to your guns. Do you see the comparisons between you and Lamar and how his journey has come and where he is right now? Because I love the player. I mean, he's just a great football player.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him. Was a much better athlete coming out of college than I was, as far as his foot speed and things like that. But I was a dual threat type guy coming out of college, and a lot of people wanted to change my position just like him. And I'm glad he stuck to his guns. I'm glad Ozzie Newsome, traded back into the first round and drafted him in the first round. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been a first round pick coming out of college. So. I knew I could play quarterback at a high level, and it was just a matter of somebody giving me the opportunity to do it. I finally got my opportunity, and I made the most of it.
Absolutely. Warren, thank you so much. As always, catching up with the legendary Warren Moon. I appreciate you, my friend. Sileo says next here on SportsGrid.
He gives them a chance, but they've got to keep putting people around him. I think he's a very good quarterback. I don't know that he's the one that elevates you all by himself. I think he still needs the help. Excellent player, perfect guy to lead your organization, perfect place for it. And by the way, I'd start him from day one. I wouldn't waste any time on it. But got to put pieces around him, and John Spytek has already started doing that.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo, only on SportsGrid.
This is the third time he's been medically checked. Even the refs coming over. He's like, dude, like come on. Like after every sort of play in front of the net, the kind of goal he's done.
Yeah.
He's
stop jumping.
He's on the turf, like you said, like he's like driving off the top rope. Look at him here again. I give him credit. He's freaking fearless.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Are you ready for el verano más futbolero de tu vida? Latination Football Club turns into Copa Nation, our live stream experience every day, de lunes a viernes, 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. Pacific as well. Checking in after the games. In that slot between games, we got you, my friend. We're going to have celebrities, legends of the game, content creators, and a bunch of our friends that are going to keep you entertained and informed, letting you know what's happening all across the 3 countries that are going to be experiencing this crazy, crazy football tournament. Don't miss it. Copa Nation right here on Latin Nation every day. Check it out.
I'm not sure what the debate is here with these NFL stadiums and these owners in the NFL having to be persuaded to stick with the grass that they gave these World Cup teams to play during the World Cup. What's the holdup and what's the issue? And now you're being shamed into keeping the stadium grass that you've put in for these World Cup players. Why are the World Cup players looked at in a higher regard by the NFL owners, and their own players are looked down on by putting lesser surfaces in? Your number one assets right now, if you're an NFL owner, are your players. These are the people that you invest hundreds of millions of dollars in, and you can't give them player safety. This goes back to one of my biggest bitches that I have about the National Football League when they constantly go out and pretend that they are involved when it comes to player safety. You talk about the scheduling that they're doing now for Thursday games, or you're talking about adding another game and eventually adding more games to get up to a 20-game schedule. And you're trying to tell me that the National Football League owners and the league care about player safety when you've got to be coerced in to giving them proper surfaces? There's one of the reasons why these World Cup players hardly ever have any lower body injuries. You never really saw anybody getting injured throughout the entire month and a half of World Cup play. Because why? Great surfaces matter. When you're playing on poor fields like you have in Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh has one of the worst stadium floors in all of the National Football League. How about the nightmare that you have there in the Meadowlands with all the injuries that have happened there at MetLife? Why is it that you have to have a conversation about injuries on your football players when you're sitting there having to be coerced into keeping these services? I don't get it. I get it. It's more economic money. Does it really come down to pennies and cents when it comes to keeping these surfaces? Listen, I get it. The new surfaces that you see today, there's no question about it, are very, very good compared to the old surfaces that we played on when it comes to the AstroTurf. I get it. But watching these stadiums, when I was watching World Cup play, I didn't recognize MetLife. I didn't recognize where you play out in San Francisco, Levi Stadium. I didn't recognize those places. And really, when you looked at all the lack of injuries and lower body injuries that you have, I agree with George Kittle. He's dead on. Look, if you care about the safety of your players, you do everything in your power to make sure that the players, and don't you want your players to play longer? Give them the best equipment. Give them the best surfaces to play on. Hey, FIFA and the World Cup, I give them kudos for this. You can criticize them for all you want when it comes to how they looked at that whole thing when it came to pulling the red card and all this and that. And you could say that they are not really upfront with many of the things that they do. But at the end of the day, they care about their player safety. This has got to come and become a major point when it comes to the net collective bargaining agreement. When they get into that CBA conversation, and you want to start talking about expanding rosters, you want to start talking about expanding games and expanding schedules. Hey, dude, you know what you need? You're going to have to put another bye week in. You're going to have to expand rosters. You're going to have to do all these things to make sure that player safety is one of the most important things on the planet. Okay? Listen, I say it again to you. When you have and you watch the World Cup and you see all these wonderful services, George Kittle's right. They look out for their players. The National Football League and the Players Association has to do the right thing by making sure that we have the best services possible for our players for longevity. Hey, I want to see my guys playing a long time. Hey, I don't want guys having lower body injuries. And with the lack of practice, you know, these teams are going to training camp now. We're going to be talking to legendary Phil Simms in a couple of minutes. We just talked to Warren Moon. And at the end of the day, we went to training camp for 2 months. In some aspects, you had 3-a-days. I went with Ray Perkins. I had Ray Perkins 3-a-days for 3 weeks. And we were ready when we got to the start of September. Believe me when I tell you. But guess what? One of the most important things that Ray did back then, it was that making sure that we had enough rest in between those practices. And again, I tell you, the number one thing that I'm watching with World Cup and with what we're seeing now with the NFL, keep these services for the players. In the end, it'll be beneficial towards the players, and you'll have a player last longer. Ray Perkins. You know what? I have to think that Ray Perkins drafted this next guy coming up, too. I believe he did. And believe me, when you go through 3 days with Ray, hey, man, that was a journey. The legendary Phil Simms is next. Keep it right here on SportsGrid.
He gives them a chance, but they've got to keep putting people around him. I think he's a very good quarterback. I don't know that he's the one that elevates you all by himself. I think he still needs the help. Excellent player, perfect guy to lead your organization, perfect place for it. And by the way, I'd start him from day one. I wouldn't waste any time on it. But got to put pieces around him, and John Spytek has already started doing that.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo. Only on SportsGrid.
This is the third time he's been medically checked. Even the refs coming over. He's like, dude, like come on. Like after every sort of play in front of the net, the kind of goal he's done.
Yeah.
He's
stop jumping.
He's on the turf, like you said, like he's like driving off the top rope. Look at him here again. I give him credit. He's freaking fearless.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Are you ready for el verano más futbolero de tu vida? Latination Football Club turns into Copa Nation, our live stream experience every day, de lunes a viernes, 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. Pacific as well. Checking in after the games. In that slot between games, we got you, my friend. We're going to have celebrities, legends of the game, content creators, and a bunch of our friends that are going to keep you entertained and informed, letting you know what's happening all across the 3 countries that are going to be experiencing this crazy, crazy football tournament. Don't miss it. Copa Nation right here on Latin Nation every day. Check it out.
Man, one of my favorite people, and by the way, too, what a quarterback haven we've had here today here. First Warren Moon, and now 2-time Super Bowl champion and Super Bowl MVP. Our friend Phil Simms joins us now here. And Phil, I got to tell you, man, I just went on that rant about the stadium floors and about, player safety and all. I mean, at the end of the day here, man, the NFL, how come they're not really looking out? They look at the World Cup players in a higher regard than their own assets.
Well, first off, let me tell you, I'm not sunburned. I went to the dermatologist and she beat me up. Okay, that's one thing out of the way. But, when you start talking about these grass fields around the NFL, all this for player safety and all that, Dan, come on. It's never going to happen. Not in our lifetime. Because what's it all about?
Money.
Yeah, they don't want the tremendous upkeep they need to get, the money it's going to take to do that. I mean, yeah, it would be probably, I'll just throw a number out there, to move a grass field in and out, what, $1 million, $2 million a year, $3 million, whatever. That's nothing. They're paying backup centers, $20 million, whatever, so that, when you talk about the other things, getting rest, the other players can probably get a week off. The NFL would love that. One more bye week, stretch the season out. Let's go, baby. So I don't think that'll happen. I think there'll be new teams in the league within a few years. And the NFL, you see it. They're going to every place they can go to play games. People want to see it. It's must-watch TV, and I'm one of those guys. If I have to pay a certain amount of money to watch whatever channel there is, I'm going to pay it because I want to see the game.
John Gruden made a comment this week. He said that the evolution of the position at quarterback is dissolving, not evolving. Do you agree with that?
Dissolving, like it's getting worse?
He's saying it's getting worse, and he's saying these quarterbacks aren't really getting ready. They're not ready when it comes to reading these defenses in the NFL today. Do you agree or disagree with that?
Man, I disagree. I mean, my God, I'm looking at some of these guys. I don't care if Caleb Williams is making bad reads. It's a good thing sometimes because he throws like 60-yard touchdowns or whatever. Yeah, I think the league continues to get better and better at quarterback. And there's going to be more additions coming in next year. They're probably going to be starting quarterbacks pretty soon in their careers. So, yeah, just look at the teams. Look at the talent of the quarterback. Now, if you don't like the offense, which a lot of times that derails the quarterback, bad coaching, bad offense, and not the right players around you will make you look like you're getting more money than you deserve. But I think, man, there's a lot of good, physically, really a lot of tremendously gifted quarterbacks in the league and some waiting to get in the league. And let me get through this real quick, Dan. Warren Moon, you had him on. Look, nobody could throw it better than that damn guy could. It didn't matter what the weather was, where he threw it. It was going to be a spiral. And I was at Morehead State, and I remember after my junior year, I'd already marked a few QBs, and I said, oh, good. Warren Moon's coming out this year. He's a year ahead of me. I don't have to worry about him. So what a career he had. It's amazing. What were they looking at? It's amazing he had to go to Canada. I don't know if it was about money, whatever, but went up there and he played great, of course, won many titles and carried it over to the NFL.
Now, I'll carry a Tom Brady comment on what you just said by saying he thinks the same thing as you, and so did Warren Moon. He agreed with you. He thinks that the game right now, these players are great. However, are the offensive coordinators up to par? Do you think that the offensive coordinators, Phil, they make all these lists for the top 25 quarterbacks or the top 32 quarterbacks. They never make a list on the top 32 coordinators. Do you think they're evolving in the game?
Well, I would say this. I would hope they are. But you know what? The defenses, the meetings, whatever goes on with all teams, they just see everything and they work on it. So, yeah, it's going to get tougher. There's no doubt about that. But for coordinators, give them enough talent. Yeah, I do. There are certain guys I like in the NFL, and some I go, boy, I watch their offense, and man, I was running something that simple in college, and you're doing it in the pros. Or let me rephrase that: trying to do it in the pros. So that's a big deal. I look out with the Chargers. Do you think Mike McDaniels is going to make that offense better? You got to watch. No, it could be like, look out. And if they can avoid injuries, my God, the Chargers, I don't know what they do. Maybe it's the water, whatever, but it just seems like the injury bug hits them a lot more than it does some of the teams in the NFL. But I can't wait to see what they do with Justin Herbert. Oh, Justin Herbert can't win the playoff game. Oh, he's overrated. All these people. He's not overrated. I think I'm yelling. I don't mean to yell. But he's not overrated. He's big. He can really run. He's got a tremendous arm, and he is dead-ass accurate, too. I'll never forget, who was it? Oh, the offensive coordinator out there with Justin Herbert. Was it Greg Roman or was it Harbaugh?
Greg Roman.
Well, yeah, I knew he was there, but he made the statement. He goes, it's great to have a quarterback where you can get a 60-yard handoff. And when he said that, I just laughed. I go, God, that is so true. There's no limit to where he can make any throw anywhere in the field just because of his God-given ability. So
I agree. I got him as my preseason favorite to win the MVP award. I want to take you to your neck of the woods now, New York there. You a fan of Jackson Dart? You think there's great upside for him? Do you like him, or do you think there's still a big work in progress?
Well, let me see what I want to say. He's not what I thought he would be. He's a hell of a lot better than I thought he would be. And I mean that in every aspect. You get around him. I've only been around him a few times. We do some funny interviews for the Giants, social media and all that. But he's that guy. He can galvanize players without trying to galvanize them. It's just the way he handles himself, the way he relates, the way he can kind of do whatever. And then two things Dan, that I noticed, his running in the pros looks better than it ever did in college. He looks faster and this, that, and his arm, but you can count on your hand the number of times he missed a receiver that was open. His accuracy, his arm's stronger in person, and as I see him in the pros, than I probably gave him credit for down at Ole Miss. But yeah, he's a true, I'm not crazy about the name, but he is really a true franchise quarterback.
How about this here with John Harbaugh? The impact you think he has on that New York team? Sweeping changes. They moved Dexter Lawrence to Cincinnati. You know, he got complete autonomy, it seems, there with Joe Schoen there as general manager. What impact do you think he makes there with the New York Giants?
I think he's already had a great impact and I mean everybody. He's affected all the people in the building, all the scouts, the assistant coaches, and the players. It didn't take them long to find out who he was. He's kind of an old school, get it together. We're going to practice hard, but we're going to have a lot of good stuff for all the players during the game. And that's what I like him. And, you know, he hired, I think, really good coordinators. He's got a great coaching staff. I think the Giants will be one of those teams that if they can win a couple close ones, they could turn in a good record. Do I think they're going to maybe go to the playoffs? Maybe. But, of course, I'm not going to pick them to make a run in the playoffs or anything like that. But they're on the right track, no doubt.
How about Neighbors? Fan of him? I mean, obviously injury a year ago. Year before that, Phil, he was electric, man. I mean, he was just electric.
Yeah, he's a huge part of this team, man. If he comes back and he's healthy with all the things they've done with the offensive line, the tight ends, the running backs, and the defense, which is going to be really fast, and I think it's going to be outstanding. So, Neighbors, he's a big deal, no doubt about it.
We're going to continue more of our conversation with Phil Simms here in a second here about our great friends at Morgan & Morgan, the number one injury law firm in all of America for a reason. With over $30 billion recovered, there are no firm like it. Tell you about the family in Pennsylvania that was initially offered $650,000. They got nearly $30 million in settlement. Also, the family in Florida initially offered $350K, got nearly $12 million in settlement. Go to forthepeople.com/Big Sills or pound love 529. That's forthepeople.com/Big Sills or pound love 529. And do me a favor, you tell them Big Sills sent you. We're going to talk more here with Phil Simms. Who does he like this year when it comes to the quarterback, maybe to win that MVP award? We'll do that next, right here on SportsGrid.
He gives them a chance, but they've got to keep putting people around him. I think he's a very good quarterback. I don't know that he's the one that elevates you all by himself. I think he still needs the help. Excellent player, perfect guy to lead your organization, perfect place for it. And by the way, I'd start him from day one. I wouldn't waste any time on it. But got to put pieces around him, and John Spytek has already started doing that.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo. Only on SportsGrid.
This is the third time he's been medically checked. Even the refs coming over. He's like, dude, come on. Like after every sort of play in front of the net, the kind of goal he's done. He's
stop jumping.
He's on the turf, like you said, like he's like driving off the top rope. Look at him here again. I give him credit. He's freaking fearless.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Are you ready for el verano más futbolero de tu vida? Latin Nation Football Club turns into Copa Nation, our live stream experience every day, de lunes a viernes, 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. Pacific as well. Checking in after the games. In that slot between games, we got you, my friend. We're going to have celebrities, legends of the game, content creators, and a bunch of our friends that are going to keep you entertained and informed, letting you know what's happening all across the 3 countries that are going to be experiencing this crazy football tournament. Don't miss it. Copa Nation right here on Latin Nation every day. Check it out.
We continue our conversation with former Super Bowl MVP Phil Simms. He joins us here now on SportsGrid here. And I want to ask you about Sam Darnold here. How did that story evolve into this, Phil? I mean, do you believe in that line where organizations are more likely to let down quarterbacks than quarterbacks are more likely to let down organizations? Do you buy that? Because this is his fifth team. And here's another stat for you, Phil. He's the winningest quarterback percentage-wise since 2022. How did he get to that point?
Oh, well, I don't even know how to begin with all this. First, he's got the talent to be a franchise quarterback. He always has. Sometimes I would look at him and just go, I wish he was a little more assertive. When you're the quarterback of a franchise NFL, you got to be a guy that is connecting to everybody to give it a better chance of working. And, so I wasn't shocked to see what he did out in Seattle. Not at all. Let's see. He's big, pretty mobile, strong as hell, good arm, accurate when you give him enough protection. Yeah, that's a franchise quarterback. But, we got to go in all these, he hasn't won before. Wow, you mean he didn't win down in Carolina when they had that awful team? Oh, and he lost with the Jets. Yeah, I thought the Jets were going to the damn Super Bowl. So there's a picture of the Carolina Panthers. There's Sam Darnold standing next to Baker Mayfield on the sideline as the game's going on. Who's playing quarterback? Yeah. It's P.J. Walker. He was a guy that kind of beat around the league, but he was a starting quarterback. Well, those two were on the sideline. Look what those two have done since they got out of Carolina. So.
How about this, too? You want to add one more? They were scout team defensive ends on a look team for Carolina, and those two guys now are going to be talking about $50 million contracts. Absolutely. One more thing. Listen, they were scout team show guys for the Carolina Panthers. Mayfield told me, he goes, yeah, Sam Darnold was the right end, I was the left end. And I'm like, my God, what was –
Dan, let me answer it this way. That you had a lot of comments before, and you said some things that are true. That just shows you, no matter who you are and what talent you have, you cannot overcome the coaching and the organization. You have no chance of overcoming it. And, like Patrick Mahomes, you look at him, the great thing, all the years, all the talent, all of a sudden, what happened? Well, what happened is they didn't have the players. And even though he was making a few good plays and doing that all the time during the season, but unless you have that group around you to where you show your talent and they get it, then, oh, yeah, this quarterback can win any game, whatever. So it's arguments that'll never cease about the quarterback one.
So let me give you one last one here on Darnold here. How much of a difficult transition is that for a quarterback, Phil, when you go from a Clint Kubiak to a Brian Fleury, maybe a different voice, a different way, situational play calling? I try to explain this to people. You can have the same playbook, right, Phil, on the desk, but when you have a different play caller, situational play calling becomes an issue here on how that guy sees the game versus the other guy. Is that the main thing you have to work with your new coordinator?
Yeah, I there's a lot there, Dan. Teams could run exactly the same play, every receiver is doing exactly what another team was doing, but one team makes it really work and the other one can't. And it's the way you present it, of course, the talent, when to call it. There's so many things, and just calling it at the right time is good for 3 or 4 or 5 big plays for each team on both sides of the ball. So, that's something I look at a lot. And, as I went back and watched some Patrick Mahomes tape from last year, and I just went, oh my gosh, I watched every one of their games, but it's hit me even more right now that they were not very good. And what the hell was he going to do? He was getting crushed, throwing on the run, throwing it behind his head. He was doing everything. And it just kind of puts into perspective once again, no matter how great you are, the game of football, you need help with your teammates. And also maybe even more from the coaches.
Warren Moon couldn't answer this question, and I'll ask you, see if you can. If you had to start a football team right now between these two quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, who would you take?
Well, boy, this is one of those. Warren didn't want to answer because he didn't want his name splashed all over headlines everywhere. but right now, I definitely would take Josh Allen. One, just the position of their football team. Joe Brady's going to be there helping him out again. And Patrick Mahomes, the talent on that team is not what we've seen in the past. And he's coming off injury. I mean, come on. I hope Patrick Mahomes doesn't play early in the year. Get 2 or 3 games where the team can fix some of their problems before you put him in there again. So, he's going to need more time to really heal. Everybody always says, "Oh, he's a fast healer." This guy, no. What that tells me, he's willing to play with a lot of pain. The healing process is. I just can't imagine it's that different between one guy and another. So I hope I don't see Patrick Mahomes for the first few games so we can see him in full strength, because I believe he's going to need to be full strength to have success with Kansas City this year.
You know what? I could tell already this question here when I say this to you, that postseason conversation about not winning playoff games aggravates you. Lamar Jackson, give me your takeaway on him. He's such a great football player, but then the media puts that he can't win in the postseason.
Yeah, I know. It's he had chances a few times to win where they were the better team and they didn't get it done. So then you're going to take some heat for that. But, and the fact when he came out of college, anybody that said, "Oh, he's a wide receiver," then, who are you? I will never listen to one word you ever say again, because that's the dumbest thing ever. Because if you watched him at Louisville, it was a damn highlight film every quarter, every half, and every game. And when I started studying him, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I underestimated this guy. He's even much better than I thought." So I don't even know what the question was. I got into that. But yeah, Lamar, he's had those chances. Even remember when they were home championship game against Kansas City? It was there to be had. They didn't make the play, and they got out coached by the Kansas City Chiefs too.
Absolutely there. Phil, I'll tell you what, we got to do this again, my friend. I appreciate you doing this, and I'm glad you answered the question because, again, I agree with you, man. Josh Allen, that guy's a freak show right now. He really is. Phil, I love you, man. Thank you so much for doing this. We'll do it again, my friend.
All right, Dan. Thank you, bud.
You got it. We're going to switch gears. We're going to drop a bunt. We're going to talk some baseball with Cab Farrar. We'll do that next. Keep it right here on SportsGrid.
He gives them a chance, but they've got to keep putting people around him. I think he's a very good quarterback. I don't know that he's the one that elevates you all by himself. I think he still needs the help. Excellent player, perfect guy to lead your organization, perfect place for it. And by the way, I'd start him from day one. I wouldn't waste any time on it. But got to put pieces around him, and John Spytek has already started doing that.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo. Only on SportsGrid.
This is the third time he's been medically checked. Even the refs coming over. He's like, dude, like come on. Like after every sort of play in front of the net, the kind of goal he's done.
Yeah.
He's
stop jumping.
He's on the turf, like you said, like he's like driving off the top rope. Look at him here again. I give him credit. He's freaking fearless.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Are you ready for el verano más futbolero de tu vida? Latination Football Club turns into Copa Nation, our live stream experience every day de lunes a viernes, 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. Pacific as well. Checking in after the games. In that slot between games, we got you, my friend. We're going to have celebrities, legends of the game, content creators, and a bunch of our friends that are going to keep you entertained and informed, letting you know what's happening all across the 3 countries that are going to be experiencing this crazy football tournament. Don't miss it. Copa Nation right here on Latin Nation every day. Check it out.
right, I got to do something really bad here that I really hate. And you know what that is with Cap Farrar? I got to rip the All-Star game. 27 Ks? Come on, man. Where are we going? Cap Farrar joins us now. Come on, Cab. I mean, 27 strikeouts. Dude's hitting 220. Come on, man. What happened to my All-Star game?
I mean, the average fastball velocity is up 2 miles per hour, which is a huge jump. Now, I've said the average percentage of fastballs thrown is less. Listen, for the All-Star game, I want to give it credit since you want to say that, which I've had so many people text me and say that, Dan. They've said, why are we watching this? Nobody can get a hit. Seriously, since Sanchez in the first inning, or I think, he was in the first inning when he kind of blew up there. But outside of that, nobody did anything, right? The intro that they did with the kids hopping on the bikes, coming off the porch, hopping on the bikes, playing catch with Freddie Freeman, getting on the field, standing by the big leaguers under the fireworks. That was phenomenal. That was one of the whole speech that they gave about, nostalgia. And then they explained the definition of nostalgia and they say, but baseball's not nostalgia. Baseball is still here right now. That was excellent. I got to give them credit for that.
Absolutely. I think the whole surrounding them signing, the lineup card and all that, being in Philadelphia 250 years, no question about it. Do you like the process when it comes to picking the All-Stars for this game?
I mean, let the fans have it is always my opinion. Just give it to the fans when it comes to that type of thing, because what else are we doing an All-Star game for if it isn't the fans, right?
Absolutely. My question, though, is do you believe that every city should be represented, or do you want the best players in the game?
So should every team be represented, I guess?
Yes, should every team be represented?
Every team's got to have somebody, right? Like at least somebody, right? I mean, that's a really good question. If you're actually going to be playing for something, right? If we're going to play for home like who gets home field, then I think you got to have the best players. End of story, because it counts. And if it counts, then you gotta go with that. But at the same time, like I gotta imagine, like we can give somebody one at bat from the Rockies, right? Like we can find somebody.
I'll tell you this. How about this story going on? Since May 9th, who has the best record in baseball? The Twins. They're 33-26 since May 9th. In the American League. How have they turned this thing around?
I'm not a believer in this Twins team. Baseball is such an interesting sport. They've gotten hot at the right time, right? Another team, I kind of thought you were going to say the Red Sox, because if you look at the Red Sox recent record.
500.
Yeah, they're back to 500, right? Outstanding. And I tell you what, I think it's good for baseball when the Red Sox win baseball games, but that was not the question. They've done good pitching. I mean, their whole team has played well. I mean, but it's been the starting rotation, I think they got Bradley on the mound. Taj Bradley's on the mound today. He's somebody who I was talking about earlier. His split finger has been a lot better. His metrics have been, a lot better this year. His hard hit percentage has gone down. There's certain things that are just going up. So somebody in that organization is helping these pitchers, because Taj Bradley has notoriously been somebody that, has been all right, but not somebody whose metrics I think to trend in the right direction. And right now we're seeing that. So maybe they got somebody in there helping the pitchers. I don't know what it is. I've never thought Joe Ryan was such a great pitcher, if I'm being honest. And he's still keeping that ERA under a 3, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have it in front of me, but he's been their, ace, so to speak there. They've done good from the starting rotation. And that's what plays out for anybody.
You mentioned the Red Sox. Do you know this is the first time they're at 500 since game 2 of the year? How have they turned this thing around, which is incredible? One time they were talking, hey, John Henry, sell the team. Now here you are. You're a couple games out of the wild card. You're like 3 games out. I mean, what turned it around for Boston?
I want to say the locker room. And how do you turn a locker room around? I just gave the pitching as an example for the Twins. And, I don't know what's going on in their locker room, but the clubhouse, man, this clubhouse has such a aura about it right now. And that's easy when you win 11 games straight. But I was feeling that aura, even when they were just 3-4 games into that winning streak that they started, Contreras and the whole thing with the pitcher, spouting off to him. I mean, there's been a lot of passion in the clubhouse. It feels like they want it. And when the Red Sox want it and when the Red Sox win, it's good for baseball. I'm going to say that again. I'm not a Red Sox fan, but it's good for baseball.
Anything out of Boston, forget it. Ohtani, are you concerned about his knee a little bit? 30 seconds. Are you concerned if you're the Dodgers?
I'm always concerned about him. He's the best player ever to play the game. There will never be anybody else like him. If anything is wrong with him, I'm spending everything I need to spend on it. I'm doing everything I can to keep him healthy. Of course, I'm concerned.
Cab, I appreciate you, bro. We'll catch up next week with you, man. Thank you so much. Marcelino Ortiz, we will talk World Cup next.
He gives them a chance, but they've got to keep putting people around him. I think he's a very good quarterback. I don't know that he's the one that elevates you all by himself. I think he still needs the help. Excellent player, perfect guy to lead your organization, perfect place for it. And by the way, I'd start him from day one. I wouldn't waste any time on it. But got to put pieces around him, and John Spytek has already started doing that.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo. Only on SportsGrid.
This is the third time he's been medically checked. Even the refs coming over. He's like, dude, like come on. Like after every sort of play in front of the net, the kind of goal he's done. He's
stop jumping.
He's on the turf, like you said, like he's like driving off the top rope. Look at him here again. I give him credit. He's freaking fearless.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Are you ready for el verano más futbolero de tu vida? Latination Football Club turns into Copa Nation, our live stream experience every day, de lunes a viernes, 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. Pacific as well. Checking in after the games. In that slot between games, we got you, my friend. We're going to have celebrities, legends of the game, content creators, and a bunch of our friends that are going to keep you entertained and informed, letting you know what's happening all across the 3 countries that are going to be experiencing this crazy football tournament. Don't miss it. Copa Nation right here on Latin Nation every day. Check it out.
I got to tell you, for a guy that is getting more and more inundated into watching World Cup, we were just talking in the timeout here that, the limited games made us all kind of, want more here. And we got the games today, and we got obviously the championship game tomorrow. We got the third place game today between France and England. What a game that is. That could be a championship game. Marcelino Ortiz joins us now. And first and foremost here, let's talk about the World Cup and how it was presented by America and how well it's done and how well it's been received around the world, and especially here, and your takeaways on how it was presented.
Thank you for having me. First and foremost, my friends, it has been a crazy month of football, and I think it's a mixed bag. I think the verdict is still out. I think there were very important highlights. One of them, there was that moment of communion between the U.S. casual fans and the U.S. national team. There was a fairy tale moment for the U.S. national team. Unfortunately, it faded away very quickly, unfortunately, for the development of football culture here. But I think that the proof is in the pudding that the culture in the United States is ready for these events. There's an audience, there's culture to talk about around the game, and most importantly, the hard questions are being asked. And what I mean is, we are talking about the access to the game. I think one of the biggest talking points for the United States is the fact that we are now talking about the pay-to-play model that has been hindering the growth of the U.S. national team. I think that this is very important, but also globally, what I see is that the level of all the teams around the world has increased so much more. There's big teams. We have the 2 first places in the FIFA ranking in the final for a reason, and the 3rd and 4th in the consolation match for a reason. So the powers of football are clear and they are winning. But also, if you think about this, a team that comes to the World Cup for the very first time, like Cape Verde, and ties and makes it very difficult for the two finalists in their respective games. I think these are the stories that the World Cup brings, and why we so happy to have experienced that. And the growth of Norway as a world power, the growth of Morocco as a world power, and the reality that there's still a lot of work to be done in the Americas to catch up with the Europeans. It's clear that they have a leg up on the continent, and let's see, maybe Argentina raises the hand and continues the old saying that America is for the Americans, but we'll see. It has been a great World Cup nonetheless.
Marcelino, so are you on the side then of Donovan McNabb, or excuse me, of Landon Donovan, and you're not on the side of Alexi Lalas here when you say that? Because Landon has also told me this as well. Landon said that, when you have to pay for play, you're talking about really rich kids. You're talking about not opening up to everybody, inner city kids. And this is really one of the differences in the process of finding the right players and finding the right 25. So you're on that side with Landon Donovan.
Without a doubt, I support what Landon Donovan was putting out there throughout the World Cup. I think Alexis Lalas is a professional provocateur. He has his agenda not only to bring his take, but to rile people up. And in this case, I think that he landed flat. I think that it is clear. I understand where he's coming from, that this has been the model that we know. And there's so many interests behind it. There's a lot of club owners that do not want this to disappear. But the reality is that the pressure is on, my friend. This is something that will happen eventually. And I think that there's also big movements around this summer in New York, home to the final for the World Cup. The mayor has let the lights be on for the 24 hour of the day. From 10 at night to 7 in the morning, there's lighting on the fields of New York, providing access for free on the fields. I think these are the things that we need to do. We need to create. There's so many abandoned parking lots and basketball courts that could be repurposed for street soccer. Street soccer, I think, is one of the critical points for this history to change in the U.S. because, like you said, provides access to inner city kids, creates players that are bold and they're happy to take the one-on-one. That if we notice certain teams were lacking that player that had a spark that changed a game. Just we saw it with Argentina. I think the big difference between Mexico versus England and Argentina versus England is that Argentina dared to put a player that was going to make that a special play. Enzo Fernandez with that massive goal. I think that we need to try to find those players and create them. And if you just reduce your pool to those who can pay between $3,000 and $7,000 a year just to be part of a club. On top of that, travel fees, equipment, special trainings, privates. So if you start adding, there's a big pool of talent in the US that is not being allowed to compete at the same level.
What did you think of Team USA making a change at head coach?
I think that I'm a fan of continuity. I think that at some point the US played really, really well under Pochettino. Now, Pochettino is famous for being ambitious in his career. I wouldn't be surprised that he's leveraging these talks with the US national team to get a bigger contract in Europe. This is the reality of the industry and the game. But to be honest, I feel like he was able to bring the team identity of the US national team. I think we have a lot of players that are very talented individually, but we haven't seen them play for the team. There was big critique to Pulisic about him not really doing everything that you can as a national team player to help your team. I think that those are the attitudes that a good coach can change little by little to create that sense of duty to your national team. And let's see. I think that Pochettino will remain as the U.S. national team coach, and just time will tell. I think the competition in the region is going to be really, really tough. The appointment of Rafa Marquez for Mexico puts a lot of pressure on the U.S. because Rafa Marquez was very successful with Barcelona younger teams, and now he has probably one of the best generation of talent in Mexico. So it's going to be interesting to see the next 4 years how these two kind of parallel stories will develop.
Who do you like today? France, England.
Oof.
In the consolation game. What a game too, right?
That's a final. Unfortunately, the motivation of the players is not quite there for the third place game as it was on the final. But if they really take the opportunity. This is a world-class game. We're having third and fourth place in the FIFA rankings. These teams are spectacular. I think that we're going to see the defensive order of England being challenged by this massive forward three that we have in Dembele, Mbappe, and Olise. These three players are amazing. And let's not forget, the goals in this game still matter. So I would think that Mbappe is motivated to keep growing his personal count as the top scorer of the World Cup. And the same way Harry Kane, I see Gordon them. But the beauty of this game is that we might see some players that didn't got much play time during the World Cup make their debuts on the stage. And this game is going to have the same ceremony and the same level of minus the halftime show than the final. So I think that these teams are going to experience something very, very special. And I really think that is going to warm up the interest. I have France winning the game without a doubt. I think France has a better team than England. And I also feel like England is still fresh from the defeat against Argentina, and France has a little more time to process, and they probably already turned the page on that encounter.
Marcelino, you would think that France has to be very disappointed. I mean, there were people saying that this could be an even better team than the team that won a cup a couple of years back. I mean, you tell me, how disappointing are they inside of a minute here? How disappointing do you think that's been? Because they were the favorite, right?
For me, and if you are the French coach, that's a disaster. Having the most stacked team of the competition, all the odds on your favor. You had an important step there in front of Spain. And the reality is that Spain just has France's number, right? Spain has won 80% of the encounters that they had in official competitions. And it was a very, very hard game for them. But the reality is that it's a failure for France not to get it at least make it to the final. Also because there was so much lore around a repeat of the France-Argentina final. I think that would have been really fun for us in the media. But we'll continue after the break.
We'll continue more here. We'll talk about the finals next year on SportsGrid.
You wouldn't have your ex officiate your wedding.
Do you, Jake? Liar? Cheater? Gaslighter?
So why have anyone but America's largest injury law firm handle your injury case? With over $30 billion recovered for our clients, there's a reason to go big.
Gaslighter, coitus crier, he's got more red flags than a bullfighter's attire.
Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
How much do you think tanking is hurting the NBA right now, too, and what we're seeing, like we saw with that Jazz and Orlando game a week ago? How much do you think that's hurting the game?
I can't wait until professional sports in the United States adopts a European model, especially like a Premier League model, and they start doing relegation. The day you start doing relegation, everything changes. Everything will change.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo, only on SportsGrid.
Well, I ended up adding this since our show started here, Rohit, but his points prop tonight at 20.5 is the same number from the Iowa State game. That's a bit of a mistake, right? When we consider the gap in opponents here, I think Peterson specifically steps up. He needs to. I think he kind of owes this team a great performance.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
I know that Florida lost at home to Auburn.
We are talking World Cup here with Marcelino Ortiz. And Marcelino, what would another World Cup mean for Lionel Messi?
This is the moment of truth for him to really settle the debate and put himself above everyone else. If Messi achieves this feat of repeating back-to-back finals, he already did, but winning both titles, many of these players have said, if we win, we will retire, because really you get to this point where what else can you do? After repeating World Cup, that means that you have been probably the best team in the world for 6 years. That's a crazy long span for any teams. Teams peak and reach their maximum level in a space of 3-4 years, and that's about it. That's why you see this churn of coaches. After 3-4 years they win. We see it from Liga MX that America won 3 times in a row and their coach is out, and we started a rebuild. We see it now with Manchester City, with also changing a legendary coach, Pep Guardiola, and moving forward. And we see that Scaloni has built a team that is taking advantage of everything Lionel Messi has left in the tank, and it's a lot, my friends. I was, if you watch Latination Football Club here every Friday, you know that I'm a loud critic of Lionel Messi and how we in MLS and American football, we need to hold him to a higher standard, because that's what he was brought to MLS to do, bring the level of American football much higher than it is. But what he's done and accomplished as a 39-year-old player, it's amazing. I think that it has proven that this player has a different type of mentality, that he has infused in this Argentina this belief that no matter that you have 10 minutes left and you're down 1 or 2 goals, the team can switch it on and turn it around. So I feel like Lionel Messi has everything in his favor, but in front of them, they have probably the most organized, the most patient team in the competition. Spain has proven that with the midfielder that we're just speaking about, Manchester City, with Rodri at the helm, orchestrating more than controlling the backline and the midfield of Spain, I think that they're going to have a hard time retaining possession. But to be honest, Argentina has learned how to suffer and win throughout these games. Spain has been growing slowly and quietly to become a powerhouse. They really, really disarm France. I think that that's the proof in the pudding that Spain are the favorites to win this game. Tactically, technically, I feel like they're a little bit better. I feel like the team is a little bit better also in fitness. But the reality is that Argentina, you cannot discount them. So as an analyst, I'm going to say that Spain. As a fan, I'm going to say that Argentina, because that type of luck and that type of momentum is hard to beat. Now, I cannot say all of this without referring to the checker road that they enjoy coming to the final, right? It was probably the easiest path in the group stage, the easiest path in the bracket. There has been a lot of controversial calls going their way, a lot of controversial calls not hurting them as they should. From the very first game, the controversy with Messi red card, that could have changed completely because that immediately put him out 2 games. A lot of instances where, the game against Egypt, the game against Cabo Verde, a lot of instances where the reality is that it could make you doubt of the fairness of the officiating throughout the World Cup. Now, to accuse the organization of a conspiracy to make Lionel Messi win, we can be here and do a whole special about that. But the reality is that when you see the team in the field, you cannot deny those 10 minutes, right? Egypt had it. They could have scored another goal. They decided to back and park the balls, and Argentina took advantage of that. The same with England. England parked the balls too soon. 30 minutes of giving Argentina the ball and the attacking hand up. I think that was a mistake. So although there's all of that, I also believe that Argentina has learned how to win these games, and that makes them very, very dangerous.
You mentioned something a couple minutes ago, and let me bring this back. You don't believe that Lionel Messi really has done enough to expand MLS soccer in America, do you? You think he could be doing more to help the league?
I think so. I think that there's a combination of his personality, the lack of press that he does, the checker past of him representing causes that are close to the people that watch the game. I think that there's a lot of instances. I think that him coaching up to the president as a neutral figure, right? Like when you're Lionel Messi, you owe yourself to the kids, you owe yourself to the world. You cannot go. These players know better, right? Like there's a lot of things that could be criticized for any player. But if you compare Maradona position against FIFA, Maradona position against governments that might not have been treating their own people the best way possible, and then you see Lionel Messi, I think that also speaks to what many people are hoping from him, right? To be a beacon, to be a light, and to be representing the people and the voice of the people. But you cannot hold that against a player. The players are here to play. They're not meant to do more than that. But when you become such a big personality, probably the most famous soccer player in the world, and probably in history, the rules are different for you. I feel like also, unfortunately, we've seen that through MLS, there is this idea that once Messi leaves, he will take all of that attention and it will disappear. My hope is that we find a way that Miami becomes a standard of how to bring big stars, because they will continue. Casemiro is coming to Miami. That's going to be a massive team. Rumors have about Buzinha, the Cape Verde, coming. So Miami continues to try to be really, really big in the league. But if Messi doesn't become the face of the league beyond the commercials, beyond the t-shirt, numbers, I feel like we're going to miss a big opportunity.
You do have Spain winning, right? But your heart says Argentina.
Yes.
Spain winning the World Cup. Unbelievable. I can't wait to watch this thing tomorrow. Also today we have the third round. We have the third place game here. I can't wait to see it. And I can't wait to see if that impact does go into the MLS and whether or not we see MLS grow. I mean, real quick here, in your opinion, do you think that what we've seen with the World Cup, do you believe that it's going to carry momentum for MLS?
I think so. I already seen there's a lot of chatter in social media, a lot of articles and a lot of trends about people trying to find their team, right? Like, and a lot of people saying like, okay, if you love this, come and join us, not only on MLS, but also in USL. I feel like that's also, you will be surprised how USL capitalizes a lot more than MLS on this fever that the World Cup brought.
Absolutely. The Tampa Bay Rowdies. I'm ready to rock and roll with my boys there. Marcelino, thank you so much. I appreciate you, my friend. Should be awesome.
Always a pleasure. See you guys next time. Tomorrow.
Today and tomorrow. Final thoughts next here on SportsGrid.
He gives them a chance, but they've got to keep putting people around him. I think he's a very good quarterback. I don't know that he's the one that elevates you all by himself. I think he still needs the help. Excellent player, perfect guy to lead your organization, perfect place for it. And by the way, I'd start him from day one. I wouldn't waste any time on it. But got to put pieces around him, and John Spytek has already started doing that.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo, only on SportsGrid.
This is the third time he's been medically checked. Even the refs coming over. He's like, dude, like come on. Like after every sort of play in front of the net, the kind of goal he's done.
Yeah.
He's
stop
on
jumping.
He's on the turf, like you said, like he's like driving off the top rope. Look at him here again. I give him credit. He's freaking fearless.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Are you ready for el verano más futbolero de tu vida? Latination Football Club turns into Copa Nation, our live stream experience every day, de lunes a viernes, 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. Pacific as well. Checking in after the games. In that slot between games, we got you, my friend. We're going to have celebrities, legends of the game, content creators, and a bunch of our friends that are going to keep you entertained and informed, letting you know what's happening all across the 3 countries that are going to be experiencing this crazy football tournament. Don't miss it. Copa Nation right here on Latin Nation every day. Check it out.
Last week I was really looking forward to watching UFC 329. I'm like getting all excited. That was a great undercard. Dana put one of the best cards together. And I'm getting ready for Max Holloway versus Conor McGregor, too. I'm sitting there getting all ready. And all of a sudden, get this, without a doubt, Conor McGregor pulls a Conor McGregor. Everyone was betting on McGregor, too. Now, there was some reports that people ran to the gate to put a couple $100,000. There was a dude that put $300,000 on Max Holloway because the rumors prior to the final was that he was already with a pre-injury prior to going into the octagon. So, Conor McGregor and Dana, once again, pulled one over on us. At least back in the day when Mike Tyson had the one-round knockouts, Tyson hit somebody and knocked someone into the front seats. And we all were like, man, I didn't get my money. But at least Tyson hit somebody. Conor McGregor got $15 million to do a kick and land on his leg, and that's how he's going to end his time potentially in the octagon. Now you got to think about this. He's 39 years old. He turned 39 this week. This is an 18-month injury. So you're talking potentially about him coming back at the age of 41. And is he going to be able to still sell a fight? Are you going to want to run this thing back again? What an absolute sham this was that Dana White, UFC, and Conor McGregor put over on the fan base. I even tweeted out that you're looking at Dana now as the modern-day Don King. Hey, look, it's one thing to take advantage of your fans, but this is how you lose your fans. When you're putting products like this out, I believe, like a lot of people do, that he had that injury prior to this fight and that he had to go into the ring so that he could get his money, and Dana said the fight must go on. Everyone was saying that he had an injury prior to this fight, and yet you still went on and put the final on. How in God's name are you servicing the people that have made UFC what UFC is? It was one of the biggest disgraces that you could have for an athlete ending their career the way that Conor McGregor reportedly has ended his career. That is, again, with an injury, knowing that he had it prior to the fight with Max Holloway. Look, you talk about legacies. You talk about how you want to leave a game. You talk about how you want to go out. I get it. Not everybody's going to go out like John Elway, winning back-to-back Super Bowls, or maybe even what we're going to watch here with Messi and how Messi potentially could win his second World Cup. I mean, I get it. But Conor McGregor has been really all show. And for really a horrible guy, this is probably an appropriate ending to a guy's career. This guy's not been one of your better citizens. This guy's not been one of the better faces when it comes to promoting UFC. People don't like the guy. People were rooting against the guy, but yet people were betting on the guy. And I will give you this about McGregor. He is clearly one of the greatest promoters of fights I've ever seen, and maybe since Ali. Nobody can promote a fight like Conor McGregor. He had me hooked. I was ready to watch the fight. I'm sitting there and I'm excited to see. And then again, it just shows you where he is in his career now. There's nothing left except for the mouth. And for him to end his career, that's how he's going to bow out. And that's how you're going to remember. UFC fans are going to see the last image of Conor McGregor walking out of a ring with a phony knee injury. I don't know. I mean, you can tell me all you want. He blew his knee out. And Joe Rogan sitting there and Dana and everyone going, hey, he blew his knee out. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I think that fight, again, was a prime example of who Conor McGregor was and who Conor McGregor has become. Do you really think he wanted to take punches and fight in that final against Max Holloway? Max Holloway was going to fight this guy, and it was going to be big-time fighting in there, and he didn't want to get hit. Sometimes athletes at the end of their careers, folks, they don't want to get hit. Now, this is my opinion, but I think the guy put a sham over on us, and it was a scam. And those guys put on one of the worst displays of sportsmanship in UFC history. You put on a fight that everyone knows that shouldn't have went on. And because you wanted to make the money and the hits and the views, Dana White has now gone into that gutter. Unbelievable. You put that on, and that's how you took advantage of your fans? Man, what a way to go out. You go out with people, once again, not liking you as a human and completely disrespecting you and your career now on the way out the door. We'll see you on Sunday, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
He gives them a chance, but they've got to keep putting people around him. I think he's a very good quarterback. I don't know that he's the one that elevates you all by himself. I think he still needs the help. Excellent player, perfect guy to lead your organization, perfect place for it. And by the way, I'd start him from day one. I wouldn't waste any time on it. But got to put pieces around him, and John Spytek has already started doing that.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo. Only on SportsGrid.
This is the third time he's been medically checked. Even the refs coming over. He's like, dude, like come on. Like after every sort of play in front of the net, the kind of goal he's done.
Yeah.
He's
stop
on
jumping.
He's on the turf, like you said, like he's like driving off the top rope. Look at him here again. I give him credit. He's freaking fearless.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Are you ready for el verano más futbolero de tu vida? Latination Football Club turns into Copa Nation, our live stream experience every day, de lunes a viernes, 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. Pacific as well. Checking in after the games. In that slot between games, we got you, my friend. We're going to have celebrities, legends of the game, content creators, and a bunch of our friends that are going to keep you entertained and informed, letting you know what's happening all across the 3 countries that are going to be experiencing this crazy, crazy football tournament. Don't miss it. Copa Nation right here on Latin Nation every day. Check it out.